Hey, this is Lola, but you can call me Lola if you like.
Hi, this is Velisa, and you can call me Vels if you want. And this is the Everybody Hates HR podcast, episode 53.
Yes.
And as you can see, our setup is different because we have a very special guest. So,
special for real, boy.
We have, I don't know what to call her because she's like jack of all trades, but we have Sarah
And
Alonge.
master of all.
Literally,
I
love
like
that.
That's the one.
Yeah,
I like that.
So we have Sarah Alonge with us here in the studio. I think I might miss something out, but I'll do my list, you do your list. So, oh gosh, pressure. So Sarah works in DEI, which we'll get into, which is like one of the main reasons she's here. Whoop, 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 whoop. She's also an author.
Per.
I like that per.
She is also a ministries in the church.
I love that.
She's also a host. She's also a businesswoman. You know, Alonge Designs. Yes.
Salonga Designs.
Sorry, Salonge Designs. Sorry, research. Gosh, what have I missing?
Podcaster.
A podcaster. She's a podcaster.
Yeah. I think that's it, you know.
Yeah, you sure?
And apparently,
do you know what? She's a
like
mini influencer as well.
An auntie to
10,000
children.
Yeah, I have quite a few.
You're also a bit of an
nephews.
influencer, I'll say.
Maybe a micro one.
Yeah,
I would.
Yeah, get some micro. I followed your Invisalign journey.
Thanks.
Yeah. So
Did I convert you?
I mean, you when I was doing my research, I watched your TikTok a few times.
Love
Yeah,
that for you.
Designed for what?
Invisalign.
Oh, they should be paying you.
No, they should. I'm being serious. They should.
And you know what? Yeah, because of Velisa's progress, someone I know is now gonna. So it's
You see,
even
it's a
now.
knock-on
If it's
effect.
even,
Do you see it? I love it, but
And you're
Velisa's progress is mad though.
Yeah, I know.
Thank you. I don't know if our listeners have actually noticed, but yes.
Now you know. I hear it still.
So, did I miss anything?
You said everything.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think there's more, to be honest.
Me
but
too. That's a lot.
It might just come out, but I think that's it.
Okay.
Does Sarah have two heads?
Sarah has one very big head. The 3 bundles on it right now.
Three.
Yeah.
I can't do
good
three.
though.
My head's too small.
My head.
Is it?
I wish
Yeah.
my head was small. That's a nice problem to have. It's cheap.
Yeah, that's true.
I have a small head. Well, more
Do you?
small full head.
You do
You
have
have
a small head.
hand.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. That was a lot of agreement. Very quick.
It's like it's a compliment.
We're all honest here.
Yeah, I love it. I love that for me. I love that for me and my full head.
She said, "Wow."
So before we get into it, whenever we have a guest on, we do like this or that,
Alright,
and it's
cool.
quick fire, so you can't think about it too
All
much.
right, quick. Yeah.
You ready?
Mm-hmm.
Be self-employed or employed.
Employed.
Work from home or the office.
Actually, can I that was the quick. Do you know what? Employed. for
Employed?
now, Yeah.
Okay. Work from home or the office.
The office.
Okay. Public or private sector.
Or private sector.
Manager or individual contributor.
People are challenging, man. Individual contributor.
I just felt the trauma in the response.
Side hustle. Well, I think I know the answer to this. Side hustle or no side hustle.
Oh, side hustles.
Make lunch or buy lunch.
It depends what my weight's saying at the time, but buy lunch.
Okay. Early start and early finish or late start and late finish.
Definitely early start, early finish.
Okay. Good benefits or more money.
Good benefits.
Good benefits. Okay.
Yeah.
Work socials or stay home.
Work social. Work socials.
Okay.
The right work people.
Yeah. But then I think because I'm conditioned, because what I do, to know that work socials are very important. But if I had to actually choose, like, would I rather go to a work social or stay at home? I'll stay at home.
I feel you.
Yeah.
LinkedIn or Instagram.
Instagram.
Coffee or tea.
Oh, coffee.
MacBook or Windows.
MacBook.
Trainers or shoes.
Shoes.
Wow. I feel like you're a girl's girl. That's what I got from your answers.
But recently I'm proper into New Balances. New Balance 327.
That's
Okay.
a very corporate trainer.
What's that say about me?
I don't know.
I don't even know what they look like.
No, they're so cute.
People they are cute, but people, New Balance is the trainer of choice for corporate London,
And they're so comfortable. Like I'm.
Oh no, I like
no
these.
cap, they are
I
so
like
comfortable.
these. Yeah. I have them in grey.
Oh, you have them?
I have grey ones
Yeah,
as well.
but I didn't realise what they were
okay.
called. So yeah,
Yeah.
very cute.
So you stumbled a bit on or you had to rethink on the employed versus self-employed.
Yeah.
Why?
Now being self-employed is hard.
Yeah.
Yeah, like employee, kind of like, you know, you're gonna get paid. Like you go
Have
in.
your off day.
Yeah, you can have your off day. When you're self-employed, there's no off day. There's no Christmas break. There's no, I just want to book a flight and travel.
That's true.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would not want to be self-employed.
I feel like you would enjoy the flexibility of self-employment.
I make it work now.
Yeah.
I think
you enjoy the flexibility of employment.
I feel like, yeah, you do enjoy the flexibility. I feel like once you get to a place in your business or whatever it is you're doing, if you're like, depending on what it is, you can be flexible. But once you're building,
Yeah,
that's what I don't think people understand.
The ghetto.
It's the
It's hard.
ghetto. Like it's the building that's the
Hard bit.
But go you there.
Yeah.
Love
No,
that
that's the
for
stage
you.
I'm in now, and it's the ghetto. I do like it sometimes, but I can't wait till it's like doing the same thing. I saw this TikTok. I love TikTok. She should know about me.
Obsessed.
I spend a lot of time on TikTok, but I did see this TikTok about Rihanna, how she stepped down as CEO of Fenty, and then she put like a
So that's real.
Yeah.
yeah.
Now she's more like an ambassador. Like she's been doing a lot of the modeling.
Yeah.
I heard that and I said she can never, but she
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 did.
stepped down as
Yeah.
CEO of Fenty, and the person that she has chosen to replace her successor is a white woman. So people were like, "Oh, Rihanna gave her company to a white woman." Anyway, the TikTok person was basically saying like that's essentially not the fact that the woman's white, but that's how you want it to be. Like first you start off working, like selling your time for money. Then Rihanna was doing other stuff like being a brand ambassador or whatever. Then she became CEO. It's very still time intensive, and now she's stepping away, so she doesn't have to spend as much of her time to make the money. So they was like, this is the formula, but everyone's really upset because
She's a white woman.
and there's obviously it's still black owned, or at least the part that Rihanna owns, she still owns.
I mean, how many visible black women are there that could have done that job though?
I mean,
That would be in Rihanna's like.
Yeah,
do you know
I'm
what I
so
mean?
sure that they could have probably went to go look under some rocks for some, but then
you don't even have to look under rocks. But I'm trying to think like what was her reasoning behind it, because I also think black people have trust issues with their companies and with everything with other black people. Like we've got this mentality that white is right. No matter how much we try to pretend like we don't, we do. And so it's easy to like ride for black people when it's not your company, when it's like you're advocating for black people to be on top in other businesses. But when it's your own, it's like, okay, she's done it before, so I want to
I feel like
her.
it's just it's about being tried and tested. Like I feel like it probably was easier to find a white woman who was visibly.
It was,
visibly.
yeah.
I feel
do you know
like
what I mean?
Kim K already took the black woman that maybe Rihanna would have taken. That does Skims with her from London. Yeah.
I'm sure there's others, but like,
There are.
what's to say that that's even her priority? Like, it's like everyone, I do think the expectations are a bit mad. Like, everyone's expecting Rihanna to prioritize the fact that she's black.
Yeah.
Like, Rihanna is also a billionaire.
She's a billionaire.
Because when we talk about billionaires,
And
we're
it
talking
wasn't
about Elon Musk
work,
and we'd be dragging them, but Rihanna is included.
Yeah.
It's true.
So she obviously wants to look after her
It's
money, and
true.
she may have just chosen the person who, obviously, she didn't go on LinkedIn and start searching the people herself.
Also, she didn't do it by herself either. Like it's
Yeah.
not
I
just
hear
her
that.
decision.
But it's opportunity though, because it's like, you know how you're saying before, it's about who does it best, but it goes back to this whole thing where like black people don't really have those opportunities to be in those positions, to even be brought to the table.
Yeah.
So some could argue like playing like devil's advocate, I'm an angel. Playing devil's advocate, some would argue that like could she not have like had someone do it for a period of time, see how they go, like an interim almost, and then step down.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have the opportunity to excel, you will never. No one's ever gonna know you can do
you know
it.
what? Yeah, and I
true.
feel like that's your DEI.
Yeah, it's definitely
person speaking,
on all
but
the time.
I agree with the premise, and I think it probably is a good thing to do. But I also hate the fact that she is black means that she now has to be doing additional things that other people don't have to do, because she's like got more pressure on her. Yeah, black tax. She's got more pressure on her to now be going out of her way to go and find somebody black rather than just being able to pick anybody else.
Is that a bad thing?
I think it's limiting for her, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's a bad thing. I think it's good to obviously support like other black business women or whatever who are coming up or who are already up, to be honest, if you're going to be the CEO. But I feel like it's just another it's another weight that you only have to face as a black person. Like if the Pretty Little Thing guys decided that they wanted to get a white, when they made Molly May creative director,
everyone was
no one
clapping.
Saying anything.
To be sincere, everyone was like, "Oh my gosh, Molly May!"
So I don't think, and they're Asian, right?
Yeah.
So they just don't have the same pressure.
Yeah, but they made Tiana Taylor Molly May's peer in the US.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's good.
I stay on the blogs.
You said you stay on the blogs, girl.
Did you see that? Oh no, this is very unrelated. But did you see that thing? Again on TikTok, the scandal around Shein when they invited those.
I did.
Basically, did you see it?
Sorry. I'm gonna go completely there. Forget that scandal. You know what scandal I'm gonna bring up?
What scandal you gonna bring up?
# Oracle Chambers.
What's that?
Listen, all the way from the US when I was there for work, I was listening. I was invested in this girl getting her money back.
Oh,
I was on the spaces.
There's some girls. Some
she fell in love.
Yeah, she fell in love and gave 20 grand to someone.
Listen, when I say that Nigerians are some of the funniest people walking and breathing on, I was in the US.
Explain what happened. Explain what happened.
So a young
this
girl.
This got nothing to do with HR.
Nothing.
Out there.
No, somehow it's a HR issue.
A young girl, bless her, has been saving up since she was about 16 for property. And let's fast forward now. She's got 20k.
Good for her, man. Well done.
She meets a young man who is from Nigeria, but he lives in the UK at this point.
It's important. The Nigerian detail is important.
Yeah, and she falls in love with him. She does
very quickly,
very within a month, 1 month, 4 weeks, love, 30 days.
That's why
the kind of love that you're wondering.
That's why it's important to know that the guy's Nigerian. Because, especially Yoruba, like,
they sweet mouth.
It's very possible.
Yeah, the sweet talk. 1 month, and in that 1 month, he asked for money.
It would have been the best month of her life if she was willing.
The best month. Well, she showed us
definitely
the WhatsApp screenshots.
Sweet.
And she lent him 20k, which he said he would pay her back.
20,000 great British pounds.
Yeah, it was pounds. It wasn't naira. And she went to Twitter because he didn't give her back her £20,000. But because of the drag that was happening, all these people got involved from literally from all the way from Nigeria to Peckham were all in this space. There was at one point
people,
I saw like 12k in this one space on Twitter, like global, all trying to figure out how we're going to get this girl her money back.
But you know what? That's community thinking, and I love that for her.
Yeah, and then shout out Olua Blanco.
Who would have thought
who got her 17k?
She would have been. She was the HR in the situation.
She was literally the HR. I told you the HR issue. Listen,
she got her the 17k back over a weekend when banks aren't even open, which is another story.
What I don't understand is why were they counting cash like that?
I don't know.
Why are you hiding the money in cash? Was he buffing in it?
I mean,
she's just one of many. She's one of many victims.
Yeah. Then loads of victims came forward to say like,
many victims.
Me too.
Yeah,
me too.
You know, I'm a true crime person, and I love a good romance scam.
I don't love them,
but I like hearing about it. And usually it's old women.
Yeah,
it's old women.
How old is
she was
21.
Yeah, but some of them are 20. So ridiculous. They'll be like, "Oh, I was in the army. I'm an army veteran.
But this shouldn't be happening to our young. Do you know how smart you have to be to even think at 16 that I need to start saving for a property for a man to now come?
This is what's scary.
And take
you're
that.
Smart enough to save for a property, but stupid enough to give it to him within a month.
Crazy.
Not even an installment. Someone asked you.
Why does someone need 20k from you?
Let me tell you something. Velisa, I've known you for how long?
Oh gosh, over 10 years. Yeah.
Ask me for 20k. No, ask me for 20k,
please.
I need to understand. Like,
you know, I'm not gonna run.
No, but
even if I had a 20k, I'm not even giving you 10%.
No, but there's something that they're like, I saw a tweet which is basically like, we give men, or in romantic relationships,
Facts.
we give so much more than we would give to our friends.
Facts.
Yeah. Our tolerance is a lot higher.
Even the way we forgive. If your friend says, I'm cutting you off, but then a man can do all sorts of things to you,
and your tolerance will be all the way up here.
But that's mad, man.
But that was a good. There's been The internet's really been giving the last
time. It's really a good place for
between
justice, boy.
Kiki Palmer, Jonah Hill, Shein taking the influencers to the fake factory in China.
Yeah, like, and now they're facing a RICO.
There's just all this stuff.
So Shein did what?
Shein. Oh yeah,
I missed that.
That's what the people are saying is fake factory. So basically, Shein got a bunch of influence from the US to go to China, and they were like, "This is what the factory's really like." Shein is the place where people were literally sewing into the garments. Help me.
But you know they're going to court now.
Why?
They've got a big RICO case. I'm calling it a RICO, but yeah, they've got a high court case going on to do with they could shut down completely, basically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they're not going to.
Yeah, they took these influencers. And
they'll find a way.
So nice here. The people they had all these.
Those influencers are dumb. They're greedy.
Yeah,
they're all greedy.
They're paid actors. Man.
Yeah, 100%.
People are when people are sewing "help me" into the clothes. Yeah, people probably have limited English. They probably learned that to sew it into the clothes.
No, man.
And you think people are having a good time, but yeah, the internet's really been giving.
It has.
Give what needs to give.
Yeah,
it has.
So Sarah,
yes.
Tell us about your career.
We digress. That was a segue.
Because I'll end up talking about TikTok for a long time. What I wanted to ask, is number one, how did you get into doing DEI work? And also, I know there's a lot of people who, a lot of people that listen to the podcast, and a lot of people that I've spoken to who say they want to do it. So I think that it'll be good for them to understand how we got here.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. So I've been working in the diversity, equity, and inclusion space from when it was diversity, equality, and inclusion, because it's kind of changed every time. So to be honest, I think I got into it by mistake because I came out of uni.
What did you study at uni?
I studied social policy, and then I did a master's in political communications. So in an ideal world, I was going to be rewriting policies. Education was my big thing.
You can do that in HR.
No, this is what I'm doing. Yeah, because I'll get to that. But that was my ideal world, rewriting policies, working in the government. I did that for a bit. I'll go to that in a second. But how I got this job was there was an opportunity. The Cabinet Office were doing NCS. I don't know if you've heard of that, National Citizen Service. So they essentially wanted to do, youth service in Nigeria. They wanted to roll that out for all youth in England and Wales.
When was this?
This was in 2012. That's when it was launched, but it wasn't mandatory. So in Nigeria, it's mandatory. Here, it was optional. And apparently, they used to do it back in the day. Yeah. So because it was a Cabinet Office program, it was working with young people. For me, it was a good way to kind of get in to working in Cabinet Office and doing that kind of stuff. So I was, they had a number of different centres that did it. So the centre that I went to was Elevation Networks, where I met you.
Yeah, we worked together.
Yeah, so that's where I met you. So when we were doing it, I obviously enjoyed it, did a lot of consultation, I would say, with the government, what's working well, what's not working well. Because the plan was that they will go on a 1 week residential away from home, life skills, then they'll have to do a community project. So it was really good, but
I'm working with employers as well.
And you're working with employers as well. So you get exposure to employment, exposure to community, and obviously going away from home and everything. And then for me, the part I enjoyed was working with the Cabinet Office to kind of rewrite the program and whatever, which was in my mind, I was going to do that bare. I only did 3 times. It's quite sad. So anyway, so that's how I started working for a youth employment charity. That their whole focus was diversity in the workplace, social mobility, race and whatnot. So when they stopped doing NCS, I was in my master's and they offered me a job there as an accounts manager. So that's how I met Lola.
Yeah, because I was at Deloitte and I was leading the multicultural network at Deloitte, and we were doing some programs, some employability programs, basically, getting people in and work experience. So we did a 1 week program.
Yes.
Yeah, I designed that program.
Yeah,
help with elevation,
and we definitely rolled that program in other places.
Yeah,
it's a great program. But yes, I started working there, and I realized that I really enjoyed working with corporates to get this done. So we had loads of clients. My accounts range from Barclays, Deloitte, then also the government as well, and also charities too. So it was okay, I really enjoy this, but listen, I just spent almost 15K on my master's doing political comms. Let me try and do something else.
Yeah.
So I started working for an agency, and our main clients was the Labour Party. So it was literally I loved it until I hated it. I was working, no cab. I was working until 11 p.m. every day. Like, you know, when they have to like give you a cab home. And then I also started working there pre-Brexit. So Brexit was a massive campaign. And same with Siddiq Khan's London mayoral election. So it was just such a busy time. Then in the end, like when Labour lost the elections that year, my role got made redundant.
Yeah, there would have been lots of cuts.
They made a lot of cuts because they pumped in all this money for the campaigns, because my role was obviously campaigns.
Yeah.
So funny enough, the people that I was campaigning for, like Liz Kendall and all these other people, they won. But it didn't matter. Like, you know, Sadiq Khan won. Like, you know, but it just didn't matter. So my role got made redundant. And I was like, okay, what do I like doing? And the one thing that just kept coming up was DEI. Like, even in that role, my biggest thing was like old people. And that obviously falls in DEI kind of age. Like, you know, they changed the way we vote. And so I was so passionate about, you know, people who are elderly, you know, people from low socioeconomic backgrounds. Like, I was just shouting DEI the whole time I was there. So from that, I just started applying for DEI roles. Then I got my job at the Law Society. I was there for like 6 or 7 years. And then just carried on working DEI since then.
Lovely. And for people who are looking to get into DEI now, like, what do you think the route, like, what does the route look like? Because you did it, like, when you got into it, it was still
relatively new.
It was very new. To be fair, it wasn't even called, like, my role at the Law Society was a policy advisor.
Okay.
Like, it wasn't even called DEI because most companies weren't even trying to hire like a DEI person. It was kind of like, oh, HR, we want you to look after that. Do you know what I mean? I would say, first of all, my DMs are full. The moment I mention I work in DEI, I get loads of messages. Oh my gosh, I'd really like to do that, blah, blah, blah. And like, people are like, how'd you get into it? And if I'm being honest with you, I think I've had the most unconventional route to it. Like, I didn't have to do any professional courses. I literally got there through experience. So I couldn't even tell you, but I think from other people's experience, a lot of them actually start in HR.
Yeah,
and then they segue into DEI. You know, they work in HR, they do a bit of L&Ds, always a route, L&D and then DEI. You know, and they very quickly realised that, wow, my L&D budget was way more than my DEI budget. Like, I'm having to do a lot more work with less money and resources, but you have to be passionate about it.
What does a day in DEI look like? What does it look like?
It varies. So currently, I'll tell you what my day was like today. My day today was budgets. But yeah, my budget got... Actually, let me not even say it because that's how my manager will watch this. Sarah shouldn't have said that. But yeah, a day can be anything from... So I work at a law firm. So I do everything from client requests. So we have clients who want to know how diverse our panels are. They want to... So when they say panels, like, who are the actual lawyers working on our case? Like, and most times
law firms are, I feel like a lot of law firms, or at least like the big kind of magic circle ones, they are at least good at the reporting. The numbers are terrible.
Now they're like, really want to know, okay, great reporting, but we want to know, like, who's actually working, how many billables are they doing on this? Because they want to know that you're not just a part of the firm, but you're actually on the panel, you're actually getting real work from this. You know, so that can be anything from, like,
they want to know how many hours, so you can't just put like a black person on it to bill 1 hour.
Some clients genuinely want to know how many hours, and that's long. I'm telling you, that's because you have to go to accounts. You have to, like, it's really, and then obviously there's data protection. It's long, so sometimes it's like an easy request. Just do something through HR, run the system. There's so many people, you know. And sometimes it's those really granular things, like they want to know how many hours. So I can do anything from client requests, anything from like reviewing policy, do a lot of like comms as well. So comms, external comms, internal comms.
You do external comms?
So I work with our marketing team. That's the thing, when I say passionate, it wasn't a part of my role. But I was very tired of some of the things, you know, in my previous organisation. Their comms is very one way. So you kind of want people to be attracted to your company, but your comms isn't diverse. So I inserted myself in my previous company. When I came here, it was kind of like, oh yeah, like, I'm quite good with this. So that we have like a whole comms team who are great, but I've kind of like...
But you need it. You need somebody to be like, you know, you see all these big kind of scandals or dumb things that company have
Yeah,
done.
they
like,
just
okay,
needed that one
you just needed
person.
one person in the
person.
room to be like, yeah, this is dumb.
Like,
Like,
who did you run that by?
Do you know what? Yeah, this advert comes on when Love Island's on for Pampers,
Yes.
and it's called Punami.
Yeah.
I was like, who thought of that and who approved?
Yeah.
Do you know what that means to different? Like,
Yeah.
what it sounds like?
It sounds like Punani.
Like, what the hell?
Yeah.
Like, why did you think that was okay for a children's
They
pamper?
don't care. They don't care.
She just needs
Because
one
the
person.
people that they want to buy it, they don't care.
Punami.
Yeah, like Punami.
No. Also like Punani.
Yeah, like Punani.
Yeah.
Even comparing it to tsunami is like,
It's still
it's a bit
madness.
insensitive, isn't it? Like, come on. Like,
For Pampa.
yeah, like, well, who said, yeah, do you know what?
Yeah,
That's
marketing
it. Like,
person. One
that's what we're going to
marketing
go
person
with.
was like, yeah.
I think it's mad.
No, it is mad. But yeah, sometimes it's just that having that one person.
Yeah.
And then recruitment as well. So like, essentially, I don't do any recruitment, but I can work with our recruitment to make sure that, you know, if they are having someone who needs like accessibility needs, whatever, I can support with that, written a few policies for our recruitment team, kind of like sense check some ads as well, because that also needs to be sense check for like, you know, gender decoders and stuff like that. So it really does vary. And of course, there's the event part, which I think everyone thinks DEI is, just running an event for Black History Month and International Women's Day. And, you know, funnily enough, my role is very much kind of like allowing the committees to do that and just making sure that all kind of goes well.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on kind of employee resource groups, networks, or whatever you want to call them?
Sorry, before we get there, can I ask a question related to how do you balance your own personal views
Yeah, that part.
on versus what a company needs? So like, how do you know, you can see, for example, this is just an example because I don't know what your workplace looks like. You can see majority of lawyers are white, for example, and you as a Black person are thinking, I want more Black people here. But you also need to focus on, I need more women here.
Yeah.
I need more people who are, you know, of a certain sexuality or blah, blah. How do you balance what you actually, you know, are genuinely passionate about as a DEI professional versus what is actually expected of you?
That's a good point. I think you have to get to a point where you make what you're passionate about the passion of the company within reason. So sometimes the company thinks they want something, right? Maybe off the basis of media, like, oh, George Floyd, okay, we need to start doing X, Y, and Z. But do you actually need that? Like, some companies were taking it so far that they didn't actually realize that they already had a lot of Black resource. They just needed to make sure that they were training them to be promoted. So the issue wasn't getting more Black people in. It's about the ones you have in, what you doing to upskill them. So I think sometimes it's really about, I can have my own views that, yes, like, sorry, I love data. So like 17% of lawyers in England and Wales are from a Black, Asian, ethnic minority group. That sounds proportionate, but only 3% of those people are Black, despite the fact that Black people make up one of the highest numbers, especially in London, of law students.
And
Really?
I was going to say,
Wow.
a lot of that does sound proportionate, but then whenever you look at where these law firms are, they love to do that, oh, across the UK it's proportionate.
Exactly.
Then when we find out you're in London, Manchester, Birmingham, Bristol, and that's not the population of those places 100%. That you're in.
Or even in comparison to the people who are actually studying and actually getting the training contract.
Yeah.
And then also, this is no shade towards smaller firms or to high street firms, but these people that you're saying are in the profession, they're not in the magic circle firms. They're not in the big city firms. They're not, do you know what I mean? And that's because they're being rejected by these firms. So sometimes it's kind of like working with the companies to like look at, okay, you think this is important, but actually, like, why is it that our turnover rate is so high? It's because you keep hiring the same people. Like, you keep doing the same thing. So, but if you don't have data and you're not speaking money in the corporate world, it means nothing. So you've got to be willing to like really.
I think it's the most like soul destroying thing to to sit in a room having to convince someone why they should do. That's why I could never work in DI. I can do D&I things as part of being a generalist. But to sit, you know what you're saying, if the money's not there, for me, and I've done it, like especially when I was a lawyer, I did loads of it, sit in a room with some partner or some MD or something and have to explain to them why it's important.
Yeah.
Because you have to have a certain amount of patience. Me, there's times where I just want to close my laptop and leave this room because why am I here? I'm trying to explain to you why you should hire them because it's fair and because we're all people and because we deserve to have opportunity. Like, I don't want to sit there and having to explain to you, oh yeah, you know, there's just all the studies show that diverse companies make more money. Like, I hate that.
Yeah, no, it's
you
true.
have to, that's why you have to be passionate about it. Because if you're not, like, you'll just want to fight everybody.
You have to. And you know what? I say a lot of interesting things about Gen Z, but they make it easier. They actually make DEI easier because they are the most, like, they're not tolerant for nothing.
And I love that for them.
I love that for them. They will leave. They don't like it. They will ask you in your interviews, how diverse is your company? This is a white man, a white 20-year-old boy will ask you, so how diverse is your company? That's never happened before. Do you know what I mean? So like now also the clientele and the people who are going to use your resources, that's also changing. So a lot of law firms, they're finding themselves like having like millionaire YouTubers as clients. Things that just wasn't the case before. And those people aren't white.
I love that. That makes
Private
me
school.
laugh. That imagine
Do you know what I mean?
like, what's that guy? Obviously not him, but what's the I Spy Speed, whatever his name is.
Speeds.
I can just imagine one of those sorts of YouTubers and they're just asking.
Can you imagine?
They actually don't care because they have the money and you need
This is it. And money speaks though. And I don't want to make it seem like, don't get me wrong, some companies, some people, they genuinely care. But when all else fails in DEI, it's the money. It's the money that will make you say, listen, you've got to invest. The reason why the woman agenda has become so big is because women make up the majority of the workforce across all sectors. And women are aging in the workforce. All of a sudden, you're hearing them speak about menopause. Why? Because we now have 4 generations in the workforce, and the ones who are the most senior, who are women, are going through menopause. So it's like, how do we support them?
And they're not afraid now to speak about it because we have like, when it was just you, but now like you and your mate, you're in there suffering with your hot flash together.
It's become a thing.
And because now these women have been there long enough. Back in the day, a lot of them would have probably left and taken on a different role to look after their homes.
Yeah.
Or, like, things are changing.
Yeah.
And also you look at things like the professional services, such as like things that you still need degrees for, right? So like being a lawyer, being a doctor, being an accountant, being an engineer, all those things that you still need degrees for. Understand and believe that black people are in universities more than white people. So the same way how the gender conversation is becoming a bigger thing in the workplace, the race conversation is going to have to become a bigger thing because you're going to have to employ these people because that's who you've got. Do you know what I mean? So it's annoying that it isn't at a point where we're kind of like, listen, these are people, they can do the work, but I don't think society is fully there. I think the dollar sign still speaks more.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. You can see it in everything that happens.
Yeah.
Like but to your point, like about the Gen Z person who is a white guy still asking about diversity. This is kind of like a side note, but I saw clips from Wireless Festival and the narrator says, oh, this is for black music, blah, blah, blah. I could barely spot a black person in the crowds. And it's people like the Dexter Dapses and the Popcorns and all these people performing. I could not see. So like they're all embracing the cultures. Like the culture now is classed as like urban or whatever. It's black. The inspiration is black.
It's black.
So people like that who, I'm not saying that he's necessarily immersed in black culture, but he's definitely more exposed to it than his parents would have been or that his older brother would have been. It's completely different. It's cool now. Like you've literally got people.
Look at Love Island.
Like literally, perfect example.
I don't even watch Love Island, but I just saw bare black people.
This is Love Island London.
Not only is it diverse this year, they are being themselves. Like what I'm hearing them speak they're speaking to their friends. And before there was a lot more code switching going on. Now this Gen Z, they're all going. He's like, I'm telling man, blah blah blah. I'm like, excuse me.
People have been
this is
complaining.
ITV. Yeah, they have. They have.
Like,
they said this is straight out of Compton.
I can't continue to listen to people speaking like this. Like they don't even like the
because they're so far removed. They don't know that's actually the norm.
Yeah,
it's
that's
not.
vernacular.
Yeah.
So when they're speaking Cockney, no one says anything.
No, but if someone's from Manchester or whatever, they say "Hey up."
No one says nothing.
Like it's fine. You call me if you call me Chip.
But if you say it broski, which is what's been going on, it's an issue.
Yeah, exactly. I love it though. I love people just being able to be like authentically themselves. I just remembered my question.
Your ERG one?
On ERGs.
Yes.
And I say this, I have my own thoughts. So it's a very leading question. But what are your thoughts on ERGs and employees' role in ERG versus the company role in the ERG?
So fun enough, we literally just ran some training about like what is your role, and what we had to get an external person in. And I think if certain people saw some of the material, they'd have been like, nah. Because essentially you're saying to you that it's not your job. Like, you're doing this on a voluntary basis. So there are certain things, I think there has to be boundaries. So my personal views are, if you are joining the ERG, like, you've got to be passionate about that particular like topic, whatever it is, you've got to be passionate about it, and you've got to be willing to give up your time for it, because you're going to put it in your appraisal, you're going to put it, you know, some companies even remunerate you depending on where you work, so you're going to put it in there, so you've got to be willing to give up some of your time. Having said that, I think there needs to, employers have to understand that their time is literally their time. So you've got to quantify it in the sense that, okay, this person's maybe going to give up a few hours every quarter, as opposed to...
You have to set that expectation, what it looks like.
You have to, and that's one of the things I'm doing now. Yeah, fact. I'm trying to do it now, because we've got some people who end up just doing a lot. Some people do nothing. But the reality of the situation is, like, when you put all of the pressure on your ERGs, it takes responsibility away from the company.
Yeah, but that, I think some companies love that.
And some companies do love that. And I think it's a very easy way for them to not budget the way they need to budget. Do you understand that, to get an actual DEI person? And also, when it just falls on the ERGs, it becomes a very events based. And I'm so, I love it. Yeah. Like, let's celebrate Black History Month, let's celebrate International Women's Day. But DEI is way more than just throwing an event. Like, there's no point throwing an event about the culture of Black people full of a room full of white people. And not because the Black people don't want to come, but because Black people aren't there. Like, they're not a part of the organisation. Like, it's mad to me. Thankfully, I've been quite fortunate. I've not worked in places per se where that's been an issue like that. But, you know, if it falls too much on ERGs, then your challenge is going to remain your challenge, because they've got their own. And I work in the legal sector, so they've got billable hours. Yeah. You know, they're not billable hour. DEI, like, what's winning? Do you know what I mean?
But I think that's what happens, because I think a lot of time, because it is passion driven, it's like people will do it, and they'll find time to do it side of desk or to do like a little bit more. And I do think some companies get away with having very, very active ERGs, which is great. Yeah. But it does take the pressure off them, so they're maybe not doing what they should be doing. Yeah. Because they have the ERG to fall back on. Like, there's companies, for instance, when it comes to Ramadan, they don't do anything, but their Muslim network will pick up the slack for what they should be doing. And I don't think that's right. Or like, it comes to like June, and your LGBT network is like doing everything. You're not doing anything but change your logo to a flag on LinkedIn. Like, I don't.
That takes a lot of work, by the way. That takes a lot of work
to change all the logos, and it's an absolutely pointless activity.
Hand on heart, it takes way more work than it should. You have to get so much sign off.
Really?
I think it's the most like pointless.
From the 1st of June to the 30th of June.
It's performative. Yeah. It's so performative. Like, obviously, I'm not saying that all companies that do it are not about it. If you're about it, why do you need, like, I just feel like it's performative. Now it's like in the social media calendar that you have to change everything to
rainbow.
Like, it's just, and then, listen, come 1st of July, you're going to rip that thing down.
Literally, everything's dark again.
As much as I feel like it's performative, I think also it's kind of like, it's raising awareness at that time, and everyone's raising awareness. So, you know, it has to be more than just the logo. It has to be like, okay, you put the logo up. Okay, what is it? Like, what is Pride Month? Like, you ask some of these people what is Pride Month, they have no idea. Do you know what I mean? You ask people what's Black History Month, they have no idea. They don't know what it is. So if the whole country, or the whole world, actually, because Pride is June everywhere, is speaking about this one thing, then the idea is that there's education, there's advocacy, there's change going on here that's supposed to trickle on, and then the next Pride Month in the next year you're supposed to look at how far you've come, so on and so forth. That's just not the reality.
It has to be more than the logo.
It has to be way more than the logo.
Yeah, I feel like it's, with Pride specifically, it just feels like a massive marketing campaign. It reminds me of, you know, Barbie right now. See how Barbie is.
I want to watch Barbie.
Oh, I'm watching it.
I'm gonna watch Barbie.
I need to get my niece, and we need to get pink outfits.
It's for 12 plus, you know.
She can come.
Okay. I didn't know that. I thought it was for children.
But plus is fine though, no? When it's plus, as long as you go with an adult. They can't do that to the kids.
But let me tell you, what you're saying, so just on Barbie, yeah, let me tell you the difference between Barbie. I'm going to give you an example. See the Little Mermaid, yeah? That was the equivalent of the ERG doing the work, because that was really all Halle Bailey. Yeah.
Really
Barbie is the equivalent of the company doing the work.
Oh my God.
Like the marketing that they're doing,
it's mad.
It's intense.
It's
and I love
crazy.
it. I'm going to
everywhere.
go. I'm going to wear pink. I have to.
Yeah.
How can I
Because
not?
Yeah,
it's
it's
true, Little
everywhere.
Mermaid, it was really black people that carried that thing, you know. And it's because
and
it was
Halle Bailey.
Halle
It's
Bailey,
all the little kids they showed, all the little black girls they showed reacting to seeing her as mermaid.
Yeah.
That's what
It's the ERG.
but Barbie is carrying Barbie. Like,
Barbie is carrying
you
Barbie.
type in Margot
Facts.
Robbie's name now on Google, everything turns pink on your page.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, Google will go pink. Your logo will go pink.
No, I wonder what their budget was.
Did they have one?
Yeah.
Did they
This
have
better
one?
this better be good, you know. Imagine if
It's beyond that because it's done what it needs to do already.
Yeah,
that's
also,
facts.
Easter eggs in this, I was always going to go watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah,
They made a
it's
president.
facts. We've already bought how many Barbies? Literally, I've bought so many Barbies in the past.
Yeah. It's a thing. But
a
yeah,
thing
it
now.
reminds me, like when I see the rainbow campaigns everywhere of because all these companies have jumped on Barbie. Boohoo has a line, ASOS has a line. Like it's all to show that you have some sort of
Affiliation.
exactly,
with
and
it,
it's the
yeah.
same thing with rainbow. You want to show that you have some affiliation, but deep down, like, do you actually
You
care?
don't know. You don't know Margot.
Yeah, like you've
You
just,
don't know Margot.
You've just planned. You've
You don't
just
know Ryan.
You've literally
Yeah,
planned your
that's
campaign for the month from first
Yeah,
to the
yeah,
end,
yeah,
and that's
that's
it.
true.
It's just
Yeah,
done. Yeah,
so true.
it's the same. It just feels so performative.
It is. That's exactly how Pride is, and that's why. Like even Black History Month, isn't it?
It's even worse. We don't even get no fists
I
anywhere.
wish it was as performative.
I wish it was.
Yeah, no, it
Yeah.
really
No,
isn't.
because, anyway, this year we'll get our coins.
Believe that. I'm gonna make this a reel, and I'm gonna save it. And then we'll make our coins.
Yeah.
I'm gonna.
If you see
Bring
us
this
talk,
back.
if you see us talking at everything,
Listen,
just
Black
mind
History
your
Month,
business.
I even have to do two. It's a beauty of working in a global company. Do it
Wow.
twice.
Oh, in February and in October.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah, but yeah, I
Do
do.
Black History Month.
No, we should. But I agree with the ERG stuff though. I think a lot of it is performative. I also think it's shade, I don't care. Like I also think the actual members in ERGs can be quite performative as well, because
Depends who they are.
Depends who they are. Someone,
it
some of
depends
the
who
allies
they
can be a
are.
bit-
Do you know how most times when you have ERG groups, they have a sponsor,
Yeah.
and they usually have really like visible allies or whatever.
Yeah.
That's one side of the performativeness that
Yeah.
I see a lot. It's like, oh, I'm gonna attach myself to this group because now it's like they'll look at me a certain way. So
Yeah.
I've kind of added to the value
Yeah,
and contribution
yeah.
to my role. But then I
They
think
never
that-
do it silently.
They
No,
never do it silently.
We,
But
they
you know
never
what?
show up. They never pave the way.
No,
doing
no.
the things in the
It's
background.
never silent. But I'm not mad at it. You know why? I'm not mad at it if you are a sponsor and you're actually sponsoring.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
if you're actually like, okay, I've seen you sponsor and you're actually taking these people under your wing and you're putting them forward for these roles. Because the truth of the matter is, when it comes to DEI, you need that white influential man. Because he's the one that's going to speak for you in the rooms that you're not in yet. So if you're a sponsor and you're doing it for your own profile, but as you're doing it for your own profile, someone else's profile is
Yeah.
getting boosted. Let's all win
and
together.
you know what? Yeah, a sponsor has to a sponsor needs to be confident enough to be a sponsor.
Yeah.
Because I've worked with sponsors. You know, a lot of the time, if there's like a Black network or an Asian network, that anybody who knows will know exactly what I'm talking about. Anyone who's worked with these people, but you know, when you have a sponsor who's not even confident enough themselves to
know what they're
sponsor
doing,
themselves.
Yeah.
So, like for instance, let's say you're, for instance, when I led the network that I was leading before, one of the sponsors that we had definitely was not confident enough, so they were never going to put their neck out to do anything.
Yeah.
Because again, a lot of time they get sponsors. It really should be a white man, because you know they're the most audacious.
They are.
But when you put like a Black man or a Black woman or an Asian woman or an Asian man, they're just not going to put, because they also
They're still
fear for
fending for
themselves.
themselves.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when you put them there, they're not like, they can't really sponsor anything.
Yeah, no, they can't.
Not any of them, but some of them, that they're just not confident enough to
Yeah.
in their own Blackness, their own Asianness.
I had the
to
opposite,
do
you
it.
know. We had some at Meta. We had like Black directors who were sponsors, and like they were too vocal to the point it ended up in like disciplinary action.
No.
Yeah,
But that's
like
because it's tech, man.
Yeah, but I saw this TikTok. No, I'm gonna say you this TikTok if you haven't seen it. Have you seen that TikTok about that guy who makes working in tech his
his whole personality.
Yeah,
Like, oh, where you from?
Where you from?
Yeah, I work in tech.
Like the
So
whole
I'm
personality.
not really from anywhere in particular. I
Yeah,
work
yeah,
in
yeah.
tech.
I
Like
saw
the
it.
metaverse, mate.
I saw it, but yeah, like it was the opposite where there
Yeah.
was, but it was like, why are they getting in trouble for actually speaking how we want people to speak up for these groups? So it was a bit techie, but the other side of like the performativeness I was going to talk about was from the actual group of individuals.
Like how?
So, see, now I'm just going to sound like a...
Sound like it. Don't mind.
Honestly.
I'm so intrigued.
Honestly.
When the company aren't doing what they need to do for the ERG group, the actual people who have that characteristic start to view the group in a different way. And it no longer becomes something that's of community and building, but then they also try to use it to their advantage. But by doing that, they lose that community element for people who actually genuinely joined,
when they're
because
leveraging
they
it for their own profile.
listen. There was some idiots in the Black Hat group that I was part of, like, and it was like everything was, I just need to get here. I need to, but you've forgotten why this group exists. And it was so disappointing that it was coming from the Black people who I'm expecting to actually build everyone up within the community so that people will join. Like, people didn't want to join because certain people
because it's toxic.
You actually need those, and the thing is that, I know for me, when I've had like ERG, especially when I was at Deloitte, when I first joined, I didn't know, like, I just thought, where's all the Black people?
Yeah.
And then not until I found, like, they were too scared at the time to have a Black network, so we had a multicultural network. They have a Black network now since 2020 and George Floyd. But
of course,
and they got a Black action plan, but whatever. So until I found that group, I felt so lost. Like, when I used to go to like events or meetups, I felt like it was respite from having to pretend to be someone else the whole time. And like, so people need it. So when you come and start trying to corrupt it for your own personal gain, it's horrible.
Wicked.
It's
horrible.
It is. And like you said, people just won't want to come. They just want to be a part of it.
Do you know what the worst thing that ever happened? Yeah, like, I always say, I had a really good time at Deloitte. Like, for my career, it was really good. But some of the stuff I experienced there was mad. So we had, they have, what was it? Is it like HSBC or somebody? They do some, these lists of like the power. Oh, it was some power list or something.
HSBC power list.
And so much of the stuff that we did from the network, partners or other senior people who had like tangential relationships with us used it to leverage themselves. So I remember there was one person who was on some list as like, ethnic minority leader, and it had said that she had an active role in this network. And when I tell you, we asked her to speak at an event and she declined. And she ended up, the first time, and she ended up speaking at one of we put on these breakfasts and these webinars. She spoke at one webinar, and in her bio that obviously the firm had put together, they was like, she has an active role in, supporting people from BAME backgrounds, and she plays an active role in this network. And I literally looked at it, like, someone sent it to me, and like somebody else on the network, I couldn't believe it. Like, I couldn't even speak. I was so angry. And I remember I sent it on to someone who worked in the inclusion team, and I was like, what is this bullshit? And they was like, oh yeah, like they just said nothing. And I was like, it's so sad.
So you called it out and no one said anything?
No, there was nothing to say, because it was so blatant that you couldn't, no one was ever going to apologize. You know what I mean? But it was so blatant. And also, one of the sponsors we had is like, and this is to say that you can't be like black people and Asian people and be a Tory, but she's a raging Tory. Like, she, like, people that they'll stand next to a politician on LinkedIn and be like, so glad to be invited to Rishi Sunak's this. But she's so far in the back, that Rishi is an ant in her picture. You see what I mean? Like, it's so beggy, and that's exactly the kind of person that she is. And she's been, she got an MBE, this particular person, she got an MBE for all the work that she did that she didn't do.
That she didn't do.
Crazy.
You know how scary that is.
That's crazy.
It's why people can't take it seriously.
Yeah, like if
that's
people
crazy.
watching it will make them want to like opt out.
Yeah.
It's like, when you get like,
sorry, Sarah, how do you feel about BAME?
I don't know what that is.
Period.
I don't know what that is. Literally, when they start saying BAME, I say, who's that?
I don't get it.
I've never subscribed to it, but I think pre-2020 we just kind of conformed because it was like, all right. But then I think when I started working like at the Law Society, and I had to really dissect that data, and I was like, you people are putting us in a category that makes it seem like things are so much better than it is. Like, I remember working with a firm, and to be fair, they've changed their name now because they had a merger, and they literally did a whole press release about how good their BAME intake was. And actually, it was fantastic. The head of DEI called me. She was just like, Sarah, we have not one black person in that intake of trainees this year.
Wow.
But we've just been literally in the press because of BAME. And I was just like, the issue, and I've had this issue, I remember that was in 2017, and I remember just sitting there thinking, this is just BS. Like, we are hiding behind this terminology, and it makes it seem as if black people are doing better than they're not. So when 2020 came and everyone was, you know, I'm not BAME, I was like, yep, I'm happy, because finally the narrative was the same. It was finally like, listen, I am a black woman, I'm not a BAME woman.
I just think I actually feel so disrespected by it for a number of reasons, for exactly what you said.
Ridiculous.
But also, like, it never benefits us. Like, the same thing happened when I was at Deloitte. Like, they used to talk about, they were really bad in terms of like BAME partners in general. I think they were like 4% or something. But even up until the time I left, they had never had a black partner. But obviously, you'll never say that. You'll just say, oh, we're only 4% or 5% BAME. But also, like, when you start doing stuff like having a BAME network, it's so counterproductive, because obviously me as a black person, I know that anti-blackness is not just perpetrated by white people. Like, so putting me in a network to try and solve my problem with people who are oppressing me is crazy.
Doesn't make sense.
I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna say what demographic, but I heard more All Lives Matter from non-white people than I did from white people. And I'll just put it out there. I heard
I mean
a lot of that.
One of my friends, and we used to live together, she's half Ghanaian and half Indian, and she is like she'll be the first person to tell you that there's a lot of anti-blackness in the Asian community. And any Asian who like is not gonna lie will know that. Doesn't mean that every Asian is anti-black, but there's a lot of anti-blackness in the community.
They have even anti-caste, like they did even within themselves.
And it's mad, because even when we start talking about Asian, I remember someone I used to work with who's Bangladeshi, they were like, specify. Because they're like, my experience as a Bangladeshi is different from his experience as an Indian person. And it just makes you realize that, like, the issues are so deep that you cannot categorize people in one group. Even within black, like, the experience of a black Caribbean person is very different in the workplace experience of a black African person. Just because of maybe everything from surname to qualifications. So the surname thing might work in your favor as a Caribbean.
Background, generation.
Do you understand? History. But then when it comes to, like, if you're looking at education and qualifications, then obviously black African is, you know.
All we do is study.
As in, I finished my master's. The next question was, so your PhD?
My mum said that to me, and I said, Mum, why would I imagine doing a PhD in HR? Like, what a useless doctor like I would be.
And then they were like, okay, what of MBE? I'm like, what is an MBE? Like, you tell me what an MBE is. Because it's like, do you understand? It's like, they heard this, and I was like, what are you saying? If you do, and I'm like, you want me to get all these qualifications to get an MBE or what? And it's like just so many. But
you know what I feel like, and again, because I'm not in the community, I can't say it with as much chest, but I feel that way about, like, when people say LGBTQIA, because I know there's some L's and there's some G's and some B's who don't understand the T. Like, they'll tell you. And for us, I just think, especially when you're not
facts.
When you're not like queer, or you're not in the community, for you, we'll all be looking, thinking, oh yeah, like, why would we think that you being gay would help you to understand what a trans person's experience is? But, that's insane. They're two completely. You like people of the same sex. You are not happy with the body that you've been born in. You believe that you should be the other. They're literally so different.
Listen, some of the most homophobic comments I've heard has come from the community. I'll tell you that for free. And to be fair, it's less towards trans people. It's actually more towards bisexual people. They're faking it. They're making it up. Like, how can you, like, no, they just don't know what they want. These are people with the real mental issues. I've heard some really interesting things, and I'm like, oh, okay. Like, no, so it's
crazy, and I think that's their BAME. I really do.
100%. Because they grouped them all together. I don't know. They even added more.
Every time there's something else,
more. They have to stop with the plus, because at this point,
no. But every time they think there's something different, they need to add it to other. Like, LGBTQIA is basically plus. It's like saying other, and that's how it is to say BAME. It's like other.
You can't just
everything else, not white.
You can't just group. You can't just group everybody together and think that all those groups get along. Or they understand each other. It's madness.
To be fair, I think the only difference is, and I think the reason why I guess black people will probably be more offended by BAME than the community will be affected by LGBTQ plus, is because other than trans, and depending on where you are in your journey, it's not a visual difference.
It's not a what?
A visual difference.
Oh, yeah.
Does that make sense? So it's kind of like you when you step into a room, you can't automatically tell that somebody's a part of the LGBTQ plus community unless they disclose it, or unless it's visibly they're transitioning. Does that make sense? Yeah. Whereas when I walk into a room, you can automatically tell that I'm black. Yeah. I'm not BAME, I'm black. Yeah. Do you understand? But, you know, I always use this example. I remember I used to do some work in Wales because I used to do a lot of freelance and whatever. So I used to go in, and the lady was trying to describe. I went into the building. It was a big building, and I think my work phone had died. So I dropped them an email beforehand to say, "Oh, my work phone's died, but I'm gonna be there in about 10 minutes, you know, whatever. So when I come in, I'll be sitting at the reception." So she asked someone to come and get me from the reception, and the person said, "What does she look like?" Yeah. And hand on heart, I was waiting there for time because no one came to come and get me. In my mind,
didn't want to say black.
I didn't know this at the time, but funny enough, we had a conversation. Her name is actually Sarah, but it doesn't matter. There's so many Sarahs. So we were talking, and she's like, "Can I be honest with you?" And she's like, "I described you in every single way possible without mentioning your race."
How did they do that?
So I said, "How did you describe me?" She said, "Oh, I said you have long hair." This is me, but I could have had my hair all back that day. And you know me, I like a ponytail. Mm-hmm. So she's like, and I, did she even add my stature? I can't remember what she said. And she's like, "Yeah," and I said, "You're about 5'5"-ish." She said everything but black, and I was like, "If you said black, it was in Wales straight away. Select me. Automatically, it was going to be me."
I used to say that. I used to say, I'm like, well, you know, when you used to be, what did we have before? Skype for Business or whatever it was. Back in the day, if people were looking for me, when I work in big companies, I'm the black girl with the curly hair, or because it's the easiest for you to find me. Don't be saying she's the girl in the black dress.
I promise you, I genuinely was like, I promise you, I was in, and I'm going to keep specifying, I was in Wales. There was no one else. Like literally, I was just there for so long. And thank God I got there early because I was actually delivering a talk, and my show was really early, so they were going to get me earlier, so I could just kind of like whatever. But I was just like, wow. And I think, we announce ourselves based on how we look. Yeah. So I think just even putting us in this category of BAME is just stupidity.
Wow. So I've got another DEI question. At the peak of 2020 and George Floyd, how did it? Because in general, for HR, like as HR professionals, it was a mad time for all of us. Yeah. But for DEI in particular, I mean, I've never seen so many black people, Asian people, women hired in like so many like senior positions on the board of all these companies at one time. How was it like being in DEI at that time?
Very triggering. And that's the best way to put it, because it was like, we've been saying this for so long. And it literally took a man dying. And remember, there was that American politician who said something stupid, like, basically saying that if it wasn't for his death, like his death basically was a good. She didn't say it was a good thing, but she said something so out of hand.
Like he was a savior.
Like, his death basically saved so many people. Are you all right? Like, data for years has been saying this, but still.
Yeah, like it was the first one.
Do you understand?
It wasn't even the first one that month.
It wasn't the first
Not
one.
at all.
But I think it's just the fact that it was during COVID. And
everyone was at home.
Everyone was at home.
All eyes. Already angry.
Everyone was angry. But I feel like I remember speaking to one of my colleagues when I worked in a bigger DEI team, and my only other black colleague, and I was just like, why does it feel like they want to do more for us, but we're doing all the work for them to do more for us?
Yes. Tell us, what is your experience? Educate us. Coming to ask you questions. I'm like, when Google is free and there's consultants that you can pay.
My well-being is very important. Yeah. Do you understand? Like, so you're asking me what my experience is without figuring out, okay, when she speaks about this experience, this could have brought up trauma. You're not asking that. You're basically using me as an end to a means. All of a sudden now, you want to start doing things like putting up like pictures of black lawyers. Oh, stop it. Like, it just felt very okay, you're just ticking a pot.
It was so performative. It was so performative.
And then when these big brands, as great as it was saying that if you don't do X, Y, and Z, we're going to pull our work from you. Like, again, that was just more work. It was more work, and unfortunately, it was the black people within DEI who had to deal with it. And if you didn't have a DEI in your company, talk to a lot of my black friends who worked in, and like from any department, compliance, whatever it was, they were being called upon. Yeah, like it was just like,
that's crazy, isn't it? That's actually mad.
It's mad, and there's a difference between asking someone or even just like sense checking and relying on somebody to give you everything. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, that time was very, very hard.
that was rubbish time. It was just rubbish. I feel like it would have even been worse as a black DEI person. Because even as a black any person, someone who, even outside of HR, people are looking at you for answers that like you don't have. I saw this really interesting clip of Daniel Kaluuya. I don't know if you've seen it. He's like, why are you asking me, someone who loves black people, why people don't like black people? Yeah, I don't know what
it was the shop. LeBron's show. LeBron James.
Yeah, I don't know. But yeah, he was like, why are you asking me, someone who loves black people, why people don't like black people? I don't know.
Like, no,
you're asking yourselves.
Yeah. The worst was that unconscious bias training.
Those people made so much money.
So much money.
They made so much money.
Like
they made bank.
Like bank. So and half these people's bias is very, very conscious.
Extremely.
I did a bad one. There was a company that we hired to do, we was going to do a bunch of different types of training, but we was like, let's just start with this. Let's see what unconscious bias training looks like. It was terrible. And it was like, I just remember thinking, you people are stealing from me.
No, it's theft.
You are stealing.
But your company, you know what's so bad? Depending on where you work, the quality doesn't even matter. Just so they can say
it's a tick box exercise. That's why I can't stand them.
I will say this like very freely. Like in all my years working DEI, I have seen what is requested from clients. So sometimes when you think you're just doing this unconscious bias because you want unconscious bias training in your organization, a client, maybe one that's bringing the company millions, has said, we want you to run unconscious bias training for your people. So the standard at that point doesn't matter. It's anyone who can do it.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking...
Yeah, sometimes it just makes me want to steal. Because
facts.
I can run unconscious bias training. We can run unconscious bias training.
No, I'm not going to lie. I feel like you should, because I would hire you guys. I have a budget. You guys can run unconscious bias training.
Listen.
Because I'm all for...
The unconscious bias training that I would do...
It's not the same.
You will feel uncomfortable.
Oh, but that's why I need to feel uncomfortable.
I want to... So... In all my years of working, I've only taken one unconscious bias training that I think was actually impactful. One in all my big fearless futures, they're called. Yeah.
Okay.
It was in a room, no books, no pens, no screen, no nothing. Just different types of people in a room from different backgrounds. And we did things like, we had to close our eyes. We're all standing in a line, and it was like, step forwards if you had black Barbies growing up. No, sorry, step back if you didn't have toys that represented you growing up. Step forward if your parents went to uni and graduated. Step back if you paid your own student loan. It was stuff like that. And then at the end we had to open our eyes and see where everybody was standing. So this is basically where you started in life. Like and all the people who were like black, or there was a few people who I think someone was visually impaired, like, but we were all at the back of the room. Then all the like straight white people was towards the front. And then it was things like, I feel more offended if I'm called a racist than if I'm actually being racist. That was mad. I made someone cry. Like it was mad uncomfortable. It's the most impactful one I've done.
That's how it should be. It
should
make
challenging
people uncomfortable.
You
And also all this unconscious bias, I feel like even calling it unconscious bias trainings,
it's not unconscious.
That is to make mainly white people
feel comfortable. Yeah, it's not unconscious.
So that they can't go and say, let's go and beat the racism out of you. Let's beat the homophobia. Let's beat all of this stuff out of you. You can't say that. So it's much more palatable and easy for people to accept.
It's an excuse.
We all have unconscious biases.
It's an excuse.
It's not something to feel bad about.
My bias is not... not unconscious, like
mine is very conscious.
Yes, I'm very aware. Please, we're not the same.
Do you know
I'm
what,
awake.
I would say there are some things that you don't know your bias about, right? And that's a very small percentage. The rest of it, you're very.
It's not even bias. It's preference. It's preference. It's not. It's conscious preference that you're calling unconscious bias.
It's conscious bias. I mean, conscious preference and literally prejudice.
When you're hiring people in your own image, that's not unconscious bias. That's your preference because you feel more comfortable around people that you feel you can identify with.
When people will say it, they'll be like, even like certain things have become so normalized in how we talk about them. Like when we talk about being a culture fit or the right fit for the team, like that's just like that's not what it should be, but it's now the more palatable way to say, yeah, you're my kind of person. And we know what we're doing. So then to sit in a room and start talking about unconscious bias,
That's bias is very conscious.
It's madness, but we should start doing it. We should start because
We should.
me.
But I'll make you feel mad uncomfortable. Like
But
don't come to my training and feel like it's gonna be a tick box exercise.
To be honest, I feel like if you go to
we'll bring tissue.
No, bring the tissue, let them cry. I feel like if you go to unconscious bias training and you leave there like smiling, there's something wrong.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Something has happened that's wrong.
It's true.
Because it can't be that way.
It's true.
It cannot be that way.
Yeah, but that's how it is, and people be stealing.
Oh no, it's
Stealing.
Yeah.
But I think there's so much tick. If I was wanted to be a villain in this life, yeah, there's so much tick boxy stuff that putting like a black face to you could make money from.
Yeah.
Like there's people making money, but from when now you add your black person on top of it, they even feel like they're doing more for the community already.
Yeah, they do.
Like
DEI used to be a very white woman dominated space.
Yeah.
Now you're seeing more black people coming, even though we were just talking about the art. Like
Yeah.
Like black people are unfortunately, black women are getting dropped from roles. But now when you put black people there, it's kind of like a selling point for a company. Oh God, that's great. You know, can we plug that in Black History Month?
That's the person that you can get if you can get anyone on the board or in the leadership.
Yeah. It's always them.
Yeah, the diversity, equity and inclusion officer or whatever, like the chief D&I person or whatever.
Well, it's too much, man. You feel like you're like you feel like, okay, you've got Martin Luther King. Yeah, sorry, I'm being you've got Rosa Parks. You got all these people who really paved the way, and you know, you got the Harriet Tubman. You got all these people, and then you have this thing when you're in the corporate world where you have that guilt, where you feel like, even though I'm tired, I'm going to sit on this panel because if I don't sit on this panel, it's just going to be a panel of white interviewees and they might be biased. I'm just going to go to this meeting because if not, everyone's going to be white. So you end up doing way more work than anyone else, and you're still expected to meet your objectives and you're still expected to like excel and be okay. And this is why I'm like, you don't really get it, because people are really, really working overtime within their set time. Does that make sense? So you're doing way more than everyone else because you have this guilt. You have this like I have to pave the way and I have to make everything right. But like you shouldn't have to do that. And so when they bring stuff like unconscious bias training, they're doing it so hopefully, you know, even if it is only white people in the panel, if a black person comes, they're not going to be disadvantaged. Yeah. That's the mindset that they have.
I think it's not even that. Like, if a black person comes, they're going to be disadvantaged. I think it's more, even a little bit more sinister, a bit more risk protecting themselves. But like, if a black person says that they have been disadvantaged, we can counter it with no, but we've had unconscious bias training.
To be fair, I
feel like sometimes it's more like that, to say that we've done it now, so you know we've covered ourselves a lot of the time, and with the client thing.
But this is why I say DEI can't sit in HR. This is why I say DEI can't sit in HR.
It should be its own function.
112%.
I agree.
You know what? It's true, because HR are they're too risk averse. We have too much of ourselves in protecting the company's reputation.
Yeah, it can't sit.
100%.
It shouldn't sit.
The DEI function should be able to drag everybody.
Yeah.
Like we should be able to say
everybody singlet one day.
This don't make sense. No, facts. We should literally be able to say this doesn't make sense. No, this is what happened. You know, but unfortunately, the reputation of the company, HR. You know, I was saying to Velisa that I actually think like my company now, and I'm not just saying that because I work there, is probably one company where people actually like HR. Like,
you did say that. Yeah,
there's a few odd people who may not, but HR is genuinely for the people, which is what it's supposed to be like, right? And that makes it easier for me, because I almost turned down my role because of DEI sat in HR. Like I did when I was at the Law Society, I worked with so many firms to take DEI out of HR, because what we found is that it stopped being DEI and started being like a marketing tool. So what's the point? Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So imagine now, I feel like a hypocrite, but I thought, you know, let me see how it goes and whatever. And thankfully it's worked out that, you know, people actually like HR, and actually people do see me as my own function. That's just the truth.
That's good.
But honestly, DEI should not sit in HR
I
for
agree.
that reason.
That is so valid. It's true. It shouldn't.
Yeah.
It shouldn't, because you'll just end up having the same priorities
as HR
to protect I guess make experience for employees as good as it can be, but also thinking about the company. And you do need to be able to 100%. Criticize the company.
Facts. I want to be able to say that mum's going on maternity leave. I want her to have coaching. It's going to cost X amount of money, and you're going to pay it. I want them to come back, and if they have no clients, I can literally advocate for that person as opposed to advocate for the team who maybe took her clients away because they thought she couldn't cope with it. I want to be able to say, okay, if you think she can't cope, what support are you giving her? Like, how are you handling it? How are you dealing with it?
HR should be like that though.
HR should be like that, and in some companies it is, but in some it isn't. And where it isn't, because even that technically isn't actually DEI. DEI come in on that because obviously maternity, motherhood falls into like DEI. But like, I want to be able to really, like, if HR wants to put in you, okay, I'm going to come in, I'm going to push it. Do you know what I mean? I'm going to advocate for you. But when you're in the same function, it looks like your house is divided.
Yeah, that's true.
I like to fight anyway, so
I love that for you.
I really believe that you have to be able to tussle.
Yeah.
In the end, because people will just act mad. Like, people act like they don't have sense when it comes to DEI.
I'm telling you.
Especially when it comes to spending money. It's like everybody wants to do this thing, all these wonderful things on some shoestring budget. Like, bring money then.
But it's crazy. So I like to fight, but I'm also everyone's friend. And I very strategically, I don't work in DEI, make friends with all your business, all of the different areas, because I've made some other parts of the business pay for myself.
I love that.
Absolutely,
I love that.
They should, if they're the ones that are going to benefit.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
Your budget is humongous. Mine isn't. So
Yeah.
let's work together.
Humongous,
But you can't
not
do
humongous.
that. I'm telling you, you can't do that unless you actually, as a person, are. You know, I always say this: Black people sometimes let themselves down. Like, we don't like to network with people who don't look like us. You kind of need to.
Yeah.
So
sure.
I network with everyone. Like, I remember in one of my meetings, my manager said, "How do you know more people than I do in this organization?" I said, "Because I talk to everybody.
Because I have to.
And I have to." And also, until my office became more diverse, and I was one of the few people coming to the office, I literally like, I stood out. You know, when I go to our other offices, I definitely stand out. So they know who I am. Sarah Alonge, you know who I am. But I'm like, you have to make friends in high places, because if you want to work in DEI and you're watching this podcast, make friends in high places.
No, I agree. So I just came back from Las Vegas for work.
People are asking where you were. I didn't even mention. I just said Velisa not here at the end of the episode.
I went to Las Vegas and saw
was that?
Usher.
For how long?
It was fantastic.
Was that for work?
I know you can't tell. Yes, it was for work. I make the most of my work trips.
She does.
So, how much you pay for Usher? Apparently it was that.
I'm not saying on air. I'll tell you after.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So guys, I was trying to help you lot, but
No.
But so yeah, I went initially for work, but I had a lot of fun. But my manager, I was saying to her, because it was like a massive conference where I wasn't actually involved, my role there was just, if anything happened, come to ER kind of thing. And I was like, I was saying to my, do I have to like socialize with like the other, HR people, blah blah, because I was feeling the way, like, not that I don't like them, but I just didn't know them. And my friend was coming with me to Vegas, so I just felt like I'm good. Do you know what I mean? And she was just like, like, you should expose yourself to like different people. Now that I've taken on like Australia, etc. as well, like she was like, and they decided for the work party that they were going to dress as minions from Despicable Me. So, that was going to be the one day. that was going to be the one day that I dedicated to, like, I'm really going to embrace the team and get.
You wore dungarees,
and I did go as a minion. I did.
No, but what did you wear?
I wore dungarees. I wore the goggles.
I think you should insert a picture. Let's see.
I'm definitely not.
I can see it being cute.
I'll show you after.
Did your hair like this?
No, I had a ponytail.
It actually would make sense for her.
Yeah. No, you have to show us a picture.
But when I was leaving, like, one of the women was like, it was so nice, like, spending time with you and getting to know you. It's important. So I was like, do you know what? I'm glad I dressed as a minion.
It's so but it's really important, and I think this one is valid.
They didn't choose that for no reason.
Listen, HR minions. I don't know whose idea that was, but
there's a lot of minions there.
It worked though. You all came as minions.
I'm glad it was calm, because I can see like a certain demographic of people just painting their face yellow. That's why I was like, no.
There were some. There was some yellow.
I knew it.
Yeah, there was some.
Gosh.
There was some yellow minions.
Paint their face black.
Yeah. That part.
That apart.
There was no black faces.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, it was great. People really, I saw like Cruella and like Spider-Man. It's really good. People really
Wait, so who dressed as Minions then? Just HR?
well, no, the HR team decided to go as Minions, but there were other teams who also decided to go as Minions.
Also,
Because you had to come as a film character.
Okay.
Oh,
so you
Cruella's a strong one.
Yeah, people had like fake Dalmatians and
I
stuff.
might have gone with
I wanted to be Barbie, by the way.
course
you
Putting
did.
that out there.
Oh yeah, you have to
Minions
go
was
with
decided.
I would
Yeah,
have been
you
annoyed
have
if
to
I
go
planned
for
to go as
team.
Barbie and then someone asked me to be a minion.
And I saw Barbie and Ken's there, but it's all good.
I would have gone as Dion from Clueless.
Okay,
Or
well, I
Cher.
like that.
Look at me.
Do you know what?
Look at me picking Dion.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Look at you.
I would have gone
Elevate.
as Cher.
Elevate.
I would have gone as Cher.
You want to be the main character.
I'm telling you, you want to be the main character. Now I hear it still. Listen, I always say this, like networking, taking one for the team, doing things that make you feel uncomfortable. So last October for Black History Month, I did like a diaspora series on my I was gonna call it YouTube, on my Instagram. And like I just for every working day I put up one tip of, what was it called? Things I don't tell second generation diasporas.
Oh, I saw this.
Yeah,
I enjoyed
in
that.
the workplace.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I think was most viewed and most spoken about in the comments and DMs was the networking and work drinks. Because I was just like, listen, as Black people, especially if you don't drink, so if you're like, you don't drink, whatever, you excuse yourself from these events and then you wonder why you don't get the team joke, or you wonder why when it's time to go for promotion and stuff, like yours is a bit delayed. Like a lot of these things are based on relationship. So if you want to excel in the workplace, your network is very important. Your competencies obviously are also important.
Yeah.
Like do up all of your qualifications and work hard, all that good stuff. But your network is also very important. Like, why are you invisible? Like how are you
It's true.
It's true. How are you the only Black person in the team and still no one knows who you are?
No, do you know what? Yeah, and that's one thing I would say. You can get to the end of the year and they're saying, "Oh, you need to be more visible," and you're like, "Sir, I'm Black. I'm visible.
I'm very visible."
So it's not like they can see you, but they don't see you.
And
Do
you
get
know what?
I mean?
It's annoying because a part of you is like, click that little perch you there. They see you, but they don't see you.
Open the door, close the door.
I am so confused.
Okay, guys.
I'm laughing. You ain't there. If you don't know, you're too young. No, but literally, like, I just think I can't remember. I'm trying to thought it's gone. I can't remember.
You see? Look.
What was I saying? I didn't
Wanted to join Bad Gang, you've forgotten your train of thought.
Visibility.
Yeah,
Making
so
people see you.
it's annoying because in your mind you're thinking, are you people all right? Like, you make effort with me for once, but unfortunately we're not in that position where we can expect them to do that for us, so we have to do it. And I think the diaspora part is really important because our parents told us work, study, like we think that it's all that and
it's that head down.
We don't have that advice.
The workplace is not hierarchical. Like, it's not hierarchical. It's not based on meritocracy. It's not based on meritocracy. Like, so all of that got you far in your education is not going to get you far in the workplace. So you need to literally unlearn these things. And if you're first generation or second generation and your parents didn't work in a corporate field, there's no one teaching you these things. There's no one telling you that, you need to be able to have certain conversations. You need to be able to joke about the fact that you don't know anything about golf, because even that is even allowing you to access that.
Mine was skiing.
They tried that.
Skiing and sailing. Like, they'll be like, oh yeah, we're going to, and I'd just be like, oh, I've never been. Like, to be honest, I don't really like snow. Like,
because I work in DEI, I make Black jokes there and they laugh so uncomfortably, but I love that for them and me. So I'm like, yeah, Black people, we don't ski, we don't do stuff like that.
Oh,
I make a joke.
You're joking about
And then there's always like one Black person like, I ski, and I'm like, he's the exception. But that in itself brings up conversation. They ask, okay, so what kind of holidays did you do? And sometimes I'll make up holidays. Listen, I'll be like, this is what I did. They'll be like, oh, what was a child? I'm like, I went to Nigeria and I went to America to see my auntie Maryland.
You know what's really funny, yeah?
Pick up Maryland.
We got Maryland. We have the DMV.
All there.
I've seen it so many times, yeah. But whenever I went to Nigeria, there'll always be one random white man who'll be like, when I was young, I spent a lot of time in Nigeria. my dad was in the military, or my dad was an expat posted. There were so many white men in Nigeria.
If I had £1 for every, oh my gosh, I spent a lot of my childhood in Nigeria.
Yeah, when I was
I had a lecturer.
we used to go down to the beach and we used to do all of this.
And I'm like, what beach, sir? And like, what company do you work for? Shell. One of those oil companies. Always Shell or Chevron. I had a lecturer. It's deep, but even I went to do my masters and I went in, and that's another thing. Even in my masters, one of my modules, I was the only black person on the course. I said, this guy's tapped anyway. He was just like, he was like, you Nigerian? I'm like, okay, yeah. And Alonge is not like a very obvious Nigerian surname, but I was like, yeah, I am. He goes, yeah, you guys love a master's. And so obviously we all laughed.
Oh gosh.
Not really funny, but at this point I'm laughing with you. And he's just like, yeah, I went to Nigeria to go and help with the health care, blah, 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 blah.
Did we ask?
No one asked. He said, but what he said that afterwards was even worse. He was like, but I realised that the only way Nigeria will ever change their policies is if you get to know the mistresses of those in power. And I'm like,
wow. I mean, there's some truth in it, but damn.
I mean, he told no lies whatsoever. But my thing is, how dare you?
Yeah, don't tell me that.
True. The mistresses of those in power. Well, maybe if you get to.
I mean, for this particular, unfortunately,
That's wild.
time, it was actually known, this particular minister, that he, his mistresses, because there was a lot of rumors that maybe the mistresses were putting something in his drink, because anything they say, but in my mind I just like, no one actually asked you, and if I dared speak about your politicians who give all of their mates jobs and stuff,
it will be
I'll probably get a disciplinary or something. Do you know what I mean?
True.
What are we doing here? But yeah, it's bare.
I've said it so many times that you just
hilarious.
think, and the thing is, when people have lived in Nigeria or been around Nigeria, they can. My name is the name that you'll recognize, first and last name. And so they're asking me, "Oh, where are you from? You know where I'm from. You you live there. You know where I'm from. But just shouldn't tell me just give me your nostalgic Nigeria story.
They want to confirm so they can go in.
Yeah, just so that they can tell you that they went to Nigeria. I went to India in 2014. I promise you, I don't meet Indians and say, "Oh,
I went to India.
Oh, Prina, where are you from? Patel, where are you from? Oh, India. I went to India once in 2014. It's
given I have a black friend. That's
literally.
I was telling someone the other day, that's my worst fear is that I am someone's black friend. So someone is outside doing a madness, and then
do you think you're someone's black friend?
I can never be someone's black friend, but you never know. It could be one of your colleagues. My actual friends that are not black would never name me as their black friend when they're doing a madness. It will be a colleague that is not your friend.
That's wild.
There's probably someone who's like, they do something reckless. I've got a black friend. Velisa.
That's crazy. If any of you don't ever speak on my name.
I have an ex-colleague that is more than capable. And we weren't even friends, but I know she would name drop me in a heartbeat. Oh yeah, I have black friends.
You should watch Love Island. I have to get into my Ella bag. Why is my name even in your mouth
like
when you're talking about yourself?
It's true. That's
what you have to get into.
It's true. Keep my name out of my mouth.
Completely out.
But there'll be. I know. The thing is, I know that there will be somebody. All of us will have someone that we would deem a colleague, if not even an acquaintance. Not even an associate that's out there telling people they have a black friend using our name.
That's crazy. I'm deep in it.
I feel quite but
it's true. I believe all of us
violated.
have one. I feel all of us have one.
You think so?
All of us have one. My actual friends would never do it because they know that I would stand there and let you get beat up if you.
No, it's a straight fact.
Damn.
Who would I report this to?
So what I've learned is what I've learned about DEI is you have to be passionate.
Yeah.
You have to have patience. You have to network. You have to be balanced in your approach.
Yep.
You have to have money.
Yep.
Data is a very strong tool.
Very strong.
There's a lot of
reporting.
Before we wrap up, can I just ask one thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, because we actually have to wrap up. How do I put this? So a lot of people want to do DEI, a lot of black people, because they feel that they will get to advocate for other black people. My experience of DEI is that there's so many different things, and depending on the agenda of the company, you could be talking about anything. So you could be, for instance, a man in DEI working on women's issues, or you could be a black person that could have been why you joined, and now you're working on LGBTQIA plus stuff. So how do you manage that, and are there specific roles that people can go into if they have specific passions or certain things that they want to focus on?
Yeah, if you only have specific passions, then DEI is just sorry, it's not for you. You can maybe find, funny enough, when I was at the Law Society, they actually had specific people for specific areas, but then they introduced a rotation system, meaning that every year you get something new, just so you're well versed in DEI. So you can't say that you're going to work in DEI, but you never want to do anything around disability, or you never want to do anything about LGBTQ+. I'm a minister. I'm a born again Christian. Everyone knows that. And one of the questions people ask me all the time is, how do you navigate Pride, how do you navigate LGBTQ plus issues? I'm like, rephrase the question, like, what do you mean, how do I navigate? It's my job, it's my role. And I always ask this question, okay, as a Christian, would you be okay with somebody being, you know, maltreated because of the fact that they're different from you, or they have different views? Or no one is telling you, and this is what I always tell people, right? No one is telling you to kind of go in there and automatically be an expert or even understand fully. You're there to advocate for these people, mean that you do have to learn. You do have to ask people within the community. You do have to do your own research, because the same way that you wouldn't expect, you know, everyone to ask the black person about my race, the same way you shouldn't go to the visibly impaired person and be like, oh yes, as a wheelchair user, like, how do you navigate this? No, you have to be willing to educate yourself on all issues of DEI, and just know that there are going to be some areas that you are not familiar with. There are going to be some areas that make you feel uncomfortable, right? But at the end of the day, you are there for a purpose, and that's to ensure that your organization is as diverse, as equitable, as inclusive as it should be. Like the E in DEI, equity is really about understanding that not everyone starts in the same place, and your whole approach is that you're giving people the resources, the support in order for them to get to the place that they need to be. So if you have a problem with supporting people from particular groups because you don't agree with it, DEI is not for you.
Sorry, on that though, like kind of turning it round, because you work for a global company, right? So how do you manage it when, for example, it is Pride and a country country like UAE is saying, like, you know, we don't, how do you then navigate that?
So most current example, some things, can I even say this? I think where it's actually illegal, we don't touch it. So the networks,
which makes sense.
The networks are allowed to do whatever they want internally.
Oh, okay.
Whatever you want to do.
So at those are the times where the ERG groups
they
have some value.
And trust me, they do.
Okay.
Right? But externally, we're not saying nada, because it's illegal, and I work at a law firm. So you know, and actually the headquarters of my firm, like I was saying to you guys before we came in air, is like, it's an offshore law firm. So actually, in fairness, like, issues around LGBTQ plus only really became, you know, a thing in the past couple of years because we've got more presence in Europe and things like that. So in actual fact, it is still quite new to the company. So I'll be honest, the heavy lifting for Pride and everything does come from ERGs. You know, my role is just looking after the budget. My role is, you know, literally like sense checking things, because I'm big on, like, okay, you may not get their pronouns, but this is the person's pronouns, for goodness sake. Like, you know, that
get it right.
You know, my role is that putting that. Listen, this is where my HR hat comes on. We're not trying to catch a case because you are refusing. To respect. Like, we're not in. We're in London, so don't think you're going to be protected by laws from other countries. You're in London, you cannot discriminate against anybody. So I make sure that I, you know, update policies and all that kind of stuff, and do stuff like toolkits around, you know, inclusive language and everything like that. So actually, the heavy lifting for Pride and LGBTQ plus issues and everything does come from our ERGs. I think that, you know, that's because of where I work. I think if I worked anywhere else, it probably wouldn't, because it's such a huge agenda. And I think, if I'm being honest with you, I think it is disproportionate, and that has nothing to do with my views or anything. That's more so the fact that I think that
the percentage of people that it would actually benefit or affect
100%. And what's so funny is everyone automatically thinks that my passion point is race. Obviously it's there. I always sound black before I'm a woman, because I am. But one of the areas that I really, really am passionate about is disability. I think I could talk about this for hours, but the truth of the matter is companies just aren't there yet. They're doing a bit around mental health, and if they're taking the disability, you're not, you know. So I think it's really just knowing that you do have to do for the company, and when you do what the company wants, your agenda or what you're passionate about can then come in. And again, it's around the whole data piece, like make a business case, and then
Wow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's so informative.
Yeah. So before we completely wrap up, it's going to come up on the screen, but what is your Instagram, your TikTok? Where can people find you?
So you can find me on Instagram, Sarah Alonge _, because apparently there's another Sarah Alonge, which there isn't.
Whoa.
Who is she?
No, it's one little girl. She looks about 6.5. I'm not even joking. Like, I've even messaged like, please.
I don't want to do the wrong thing, but we'll report her.
Like, I was like, please, like, what's happening, bro? So Sarah Alonge _ on Instagram and Threads.
Yeah,
you got Threads as well.
We're on Threads.
Lola is on Threads.
Listen, everybody is on Threads.
I love it.
I haven't looked at it.
I'm following
not
you on
involved.
Threads.
Yeah,
I think you're the first person I follow. I said, oh, this girl is threading.
I love it. I love it because it's given Twitter before Twitter became
toxic. Yeah. It's a nice place.
Sounds boring.
Twitter,
Are you not on it yet?
I'll stick to my toxic
I'll
Twitter.
meet you there. You'll be number 55,000.
but you like stuff like that.
I
man.
do. Didn't you hear me talking about the space? Like, I'm all
it's a
for
nice
it.
safe space. On Twitter,
When they start restricting it so you can only see 50 tweets a day,
then you'll know all of a sudden. Anyway, Sha, on Twitter, barely use it, Sarah Alonge. TikTok, Sarah Alonge. YouTube, currently only actively on my podcast, which is ATM Pod. And
What do you talk about on ATM Pods?
it stands for the All That Matters podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So it's literally speak about everything from careers, finance, relationships, friendships is a big one that's coming up recently. Me and my various guest co-hosts. You two should come on it one day. Wow, she's
already invited herself.
She really invited herself. We did that quickly. It's my time up. Like, she put her hand up. And yeah, Velisa, I'm an author. So if you want to get a copy of my book, it's on Amazon. It's called Behind the Scenes. Buy the book.
Behind the Scenes.
Behind the Scenes on Amazon.
Although it's based on real life, it felt like a movie. I think you should try and make it into a film.
Yeah.
It is. It's yeah.
So fun fact, I'm finally recording the Audible because I didn't realize how many people really wanted that Audible. And even just narrating it is like, it actually sounds like a movie, but it was my real life.
Just to leave it on the cliffhanger, can you just tell us a little bit about what the book is about, just so people can go buy it?
No, seriously.
Yeah, go on. We won't explain anything.
It has nothing to do with DEI. Behind the Scenes is a memoir about what happens behind the scenes of a picture perfect relationship. So I speak about my experience of having my wedding called off 6 days before the wedding, and how I got through that and what led to that.
Because she's still standing, she's glowing, she's here. Buy the book. That's a wrap, guys. Bye.
Thanks for having me.